for us at the Bloemfontein Magistrate's Court. So essentially, Linda, from the legal representatives of three of the five accused, essentially the state has no case and their clients should be let go on bail, they believe.
They believe the state's case is not watertight, and on those grounds, further detainment of their client would prejudice them, either be it for, preparation of trial or even life in general. They've placed a number of reasons that have already been displayed to the court as to why it is in the interest of justice for their client to be granted bail. You'll remember in that bite, the lawyer for applicant number 1 and 4 detailing to the court that his clients have no previous conviction, and therefore there hasn't been any evidence that has been deposed by the state that shows that their client is a violent person or has the potential to harm any witness should he be released on bail. In fact, if you remember in the case of Sinuhe Matswara, he is the former G4S employee who has since been dismissed at work, and he says the fact that the state claimed that he had access to the personal information of the people who were part of his hearing does not stand now because he has been dismissed by his employer, his former employer, and therefore does not have access to those documents, essentially trying to tell us or telling us that the harm that the state may have tried to paint has essentially, has essentially faded. Therefore, it cannot be said that, the fact that he had access to those documents or the files pertaining to the people who work at G4S, could further or, in fact, influence any level of harm on the accused. You'll remember there was also the issue around the passport of Sinuhe Matswara. We heard in this court that it was stamped around 16 times. The state witness saying that it would mean that, during that period, I think it was October and November, the accused or the applicant in this matter would have traveled to at Lesotho, during that period last year, indicating that perhaps he may have been a flight risk. But the investigating officer, if you remember quite correctly, was probed around whether he had followed up on what he was going to do in Lesotho, who he was going to contact then, whether he had any relatives in Lesotho. So those issues were ventilated in this court. And what the lawyer, or the defense lawyer, is now saying is that, in fact, you'll remember, the investigating officer conceded to have erred in that particular regard, because it later turned out that the number of times that Sinuhe Matswara had left South Africa for Lesotho, it was in fact 4 times. So it cannot be said at this particular point that he is a flight risk. So that lawyer also representing applicant number 4, we know that in this matter he is listed as accused number 7. This is Tieho Makotsa, who is said to have opened doors essentially for Thabo Bester to escape. But I've got a guest with me, Dudu, who's just joined us. This is the mother of Bereng, who for the very first time is attending these proceedings. Me Monica, ke lebogele nako ya gago. Re qala go go bona obviously ko court since re patile Katlego. Ha o ka re jwetsa fela gore go dula mo gare ga court ntse o utlwa ditaba tse di qoqwang go o ikutlwa yang?
Ha ke happy totally. I'm not happy. I'm not happy because bare re batla peaceful justice. So re bikinyana re no khona o kreya. So bona ba batla ho tswa mo ba batla ho kreya bail. So ke lwanela bail ba sa ba kreya bail because motho o na le bana le nna ke ngwana ke, so a ka se tlotsa buile bona ba tla ba dutse le basadi ba bona ka mo matlo o le monate le di family tsa bona. What about me le bana ba gagwe? A ka se tlotsa buile. So nna ke re no bail mo bathong ba ka moka, no bail. Even le bo Nandipa first day, Nandipa le papa gagwe, even le yena Bester, no bail. Ela botle ke re no bail. Ha ona motho a tla kry bail. Ke a lwana ke re no bail. ntse ke repeata ke re no bail for batho ba because ba bolaile ngwana ke ka setlogo and ngwana ke ka setlhotse a buile so bona ba tla ba dutse le basadi ba bona. What about nna le bana ba gagwe ka setlhotse re mo bone ka setlhotse ba ka setlhotse ba mo busitse bona jaka ba mo bolaile so ba happy mo matlong a bona no bail batho ba hela botlhe
ba re di-lawyer diri setšhaba se nagana gore batho ba mo court ba qoswa ka o bolaya go a Katlego when that charge e tlositswe wa itlhaloganya ntho a ba itshong gore a gona motho o qoswang as at this point ka go bolaya ga Katlego
a gona motho o qoswang ke understand but ba bolai bona ba teng a ke ka mokoti ba teng ba bolai bona ba mo bolaileng ba mo tsetseng ba itse ba mo tsetse eng ba lo mo isetsa ko maga o sena mo bolai ba tlile yang gore ba mo tsei ba lo mo chesa ko tronko maga o sena mo bolai mo bolaile ba mo tseile ba mo itse ba against because ba ka se mo tsei hela ba mo isa ko G4S a lo chisiwa maga sa ira next ana se mo tronko nga sa kwalelo no
go tla go tshwara yang ha ba ka ba kry-a bail
ha o tlo ntshwara at all ha o tlo ntshwara pele never ha ke alright no ke a kula because of ngwana ke a kula so ha o tlo ntshwara pele so nna ke re no bail
Dudu, that is the mother of Katlego Bereng, as you can see, coming with the mother of his last-born child, who's also through this placard calling for no bail. So the family, of course, saying that the fact that they're questioning basically why there isn't a murder charge when they believe that the people who are accused in this matter know exactly who would have killed Katlego. She's calling for no bail, saying that in all the accused, they shouldn't be getting bail because them being granted bail would mean that they will get to go home and enjoy some downtime with their families when she's still grieving the loss of her child. She asked if there was nobody that killed Katlego, how did they then take him to the G4S prison where he was then set alight? So those are the calls then that are coming from the Bereng family, particularly his mother, who was seeing for the very first time, who has now is now showing us, quite a different picture, quite brave, coming out quite bravely and strongly to speak out against, of course, what has happened. So at this point, these are the scenes that are playing out outside court. The arguments then will then continue in this court when, after this adjournment, in fact.
Thank you very much, Linda Mnisi, for that report. Still to come.